this section. With that, I'll hand it over to Aaron.
All right, thanks. Hi, my name's Aaron. I'm an addict. Okay, so just to, hi, how you doing? Just to reiterate that, this is a basic text workshop. You know, and I was told there was 2 different ways I can do it. I could either stand up here and tell you what I know or what I think I know about the basic text and my experience through going through the basic text, or we can have an interactive workshop where everybody shares their experience on the basic text, you know? So what I've chose is the second one, which is we, because you know it's a we program. We are all gonna share our experience, you know, on the on what we've learned from the basic text, you know. And you know, I just briefly, you know, my name's Aaron. I'm an addict. When I first walked in the doors of Narcotics Anonymous as a newcomer, I was really attracted to the drama. I was really attracted to hearing war stories. I was attracted to all that stuff. And I think there is a place in Narcotics Anonymous for that. Sometimes we get, well, I'll talk about myself. Sometimes I can think that I'm so well that I don't need to hear that. You know, I just need to hear the solution. Just give me the solution. And I forget when I first came into the program, I needed to hear other people. I needed to hear where they came from. I needed to have that level of identification and then hear what they did to get out of that place. Do you hear it? Yeah? So there is a place for that. You know, however, I was in Western-super-Mare when I first started on this journey. And I was in meetings and I was hearing a lot of different stuff. And I could only connect with the war story stuff. I could only connect. And I relapsed. You know, You know, after I relapsed, there was a couple of people who I did not want to have it with. I did not want to have it with these people. And these were the people in the meeting that sounded really boring, in my opinion. They would sit down there and they would always have this in there. This, like this. And there was a stigma like, don't be like them. Don't be like them. They were a different background, you know what I mean? Different, you know, race. They were just different. Do you know what I mean? But I wanted to be with these guys that were talking about this other stuff, things I could relate to, you know, the jails, institutions, even the deaths. Do you know what I mean? I want to, you know, that type of stuff. But after I relapsed, I was expecting phone calls from these other guys. I didn't get it. I got phone calls from the guys that were doing this. I was fuming. These were the guys that were saying, come to our meeting. We've got Junior knows what I'm talking about. Mikey knows, and Gavin, they know what I'm talking about. We've got a meeting somewhere else. Come to this other meeting somewhere else. And I was like, rah, so listen, I'm on my face. I've just come out of treatment, right? I've told my mum and everything else, my missus, my mum, that I've recovered. I've told them I've recovered, right? Come out of treatment, I've relapsed, I'm on my face. These people are telling me come to this meeting, so I went to the meeting with them, man. Absolutely fuming. I didn't even want to be seen with them. Right? But one thing that they were really, really, really interested in was the literature. You know? And the reason why I wasn't attracted to the literature in the beginning is because I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. I understood the other stuff because that's what I was living. I was living in my step 1, so I can relate to all of the madness, you know, probation officers and all of that. I can relate to all that stuff, you know. But this book says that many books have been written by the nature about addiction, but this concerns itself with recovery. That's right. I didn't know what recovery was, you know. So what happened was, in short, you know, a guy asked me, Aaron, why did you relapse? I don't know why I relapsed. I was working my program. He said, yes, you was working your program, but we have a program, and it's in this book. The program was in here. And what he did, he sat down with me, and we started to go through this book. Do you know what I mean? Strange, because I had done step work before, right? And what they'd do is they'd give me the step working guide, and they would say, answer the first question. What does a disease of addiction mean to me? It's the first question in the step working guide, yeah? In America, they call it the flat book, yeah? First, and I would answer what I believe it means to me, and I would go on and so forth. But this book started to explain to me what addiction really was about. You know, so it was a different experience. Every step that I went through, he took me through the step here and explained what it was about. We broke down the literature in sections like suggestions and musts, and I started to get into the literature, man. So I've got some stuff here, right? So I wanted to sound really clever. So what I did, I wrote down some stuff about the history, of NA and how this all got put together. And it's not deep. It's all in here. Everything that I'm going to talk about is in here, So it's in the preface. I also, because when I came to Narcotics Anonymous, I didn't need glasses. My hair wasn't grey. I got married. My hair got grey. Went grey. I love my wife. So with technology now we can get this stuff on iPads, on iPhones. I use this because I can enlarge it and I can see better. So I thought I'll use this. But then I thought to myself, something which a sponsor told me a long time ago, is people may say, where does it say that? I could be telling you, the basic text says this and it says that and it says this and whatever. And if I'm asked where does it say that, I'm going to be stuck. So I got Paul, who's going to help me, my assistant. And we're going to use the 6th edition. And if anybody asks, where does it say that? Paul will be able to tell you what page number it's on and which paragraph. So it gets me out of trouble. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do here. So in 1953, Narcotics Anonymous was formed by some addicts and some alcoholics from Alcoholics Anonymous. They helped us to form Narcotics Anonymous, right? Narcotics Anonymous. The white booklet in 1962 was out. The white booklet is all they had. That was like their basic text. In the white booklet, all of the readings that went round the room earlier, that's all inside the white booklet, right? All inside the white booklet. That's never changed. It's only a little booklet, right? And what happened is that the fellowship started to grow, then it started to shrink, right? When it started to shrink, the World Service Board, right, which is in California, that was formed. And in the basic text was actually, there was a committee. There was a committee, like a literature committee. And then, loads of people from the fellowship put loads of different experience in and things that were going on. And then they formed the basic text. 1982 is when we had the basic text, right? Now, between 1982 and 1988, there was edition 1, edition 2, edition 3, edition 4, edition 5. There was 5 different editions in that small period of time. And the fellowship got fed up. This is all inside here, by the way. It's all inside here. The fellowship got fed up and said, enough. And we didn't think there would be any more editions. And then we had edition 6. When I first came to Narcotics Anonymous, I was on edition 5. That's what I had, edition 5. And I remember when edition 6 came out, and I said, because I had kind of knew where everything was in edition 5, and it changed, right? It challenged me. Because now I couldn't say it's on page this, it's on page that. So I was like, no, I don't want to use that. I'm going to stick with edition 5, because I can sound clever with that. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to relearn everything again. And my sponsor said, listen, you're not an old timer. He said, this program, what we have, and the literature that comes out, it's organic and it keeps growing and it keeps changing. And as more experiences come from you guys, it gets put inside the literature. So he said, do not try and stick to edition. Move with the fellowship. We're organic. We are moving. So I got my edition 6 and started to highlight and started to get into that, And the literature, people say the literature, you speak from your heart. Do you know what I mean? You're hiding behind the literature. We hear all that kind of stuff in Narcotics Anonymous. And I'm a big believer of speaking from your heart, don't get me wrong. But when I first came into this program, the desires and the stuff that I had in my heart weren't that good. Do you get what I mean? So I could speak from my heart, and if I tried to get direction from my heart would tell me, like, I used to shoplift. I used to love shoplifting, right? So my desire was to shoplift, come from my heart, right? And I would say to myself, like, you know what, Aaron, you're not using drugs anymore, but do you remember that feeling when you used to get away with that leg of lamb? You know? Remember the feeling when you used to run and the security guards couldn't catch you, and you thought, yeah, I just wanted that rush, I just wanted that buzz, right? But then, I've got the literature over here, right, that's been written by addicts, for addicts, thousands and thousands of people sharing their experiences that is battling that desire that's in my heart. The disease was inside my head. It's telling me, Aaron, you can get away with it. Go on, one more time. But then you guys over here in the literature are telling me something else. And there are times, right, that I can do the meeting. I'm new and I can do the meeting, right? And I want to use. And when I'm in the meeting, I feel safe, right? My sponsor said call people, yeah? So I would call people and him, but my sponsor is not available 24 hours of the day. Right? In the middle of the night when I wake up and it's on me, right? Sometimes I can't call you guys, but I always had the basic text. I always had thousands of voices combating this other voice that wanted to ruin my life. You know, it wanted to ruin my life. So we're going to break down chapter 5. The reason why I picked chapter 5, what can I do, is because it has everything in this chapter that we need to get recovery. You know, from how do we get clean, you know, from going to meetings, from sponsorship, from service, from relationship with a higher power, for carrying them. It's got everything that we need. Everything we need. So I thought this would be a good chapter to break down. So let's start. It's an interactive, right? So what we're going to do is, you know, people are going to share their experiences. I just want to let you know that I am not an expert on the basic text. All I've got is my experience. I'm still learning as I go along. I'm probably going to learn new things from you guys today in this workshop. Okay? So, all right. So what can I do? So the first thing I want to talk about is the stopping the using, right? By the way, Mikey, if you're going through it, it's impossible for me to go through the entire chapter. It's impossible. So I've just selected different paragraphs, and hopefully we can go through this journey alone. It says that stop using for today. Most of us can do for 8 or 12 hours. That seems impossible to do for a longer period of time. If the obsession and compulsion becomes too great, put yourself on a 5-minute basis of not using. Minutes will go to hours. Hours will go to days, so you can break the habit and gain some peace of mind. The real miracle happens when you realize the need for drugs has some way been lifted. You have stopped using and started to live. Stopped using and started to live. I never knew that I could put myself on a 5-minute basis of not using. I remember when I tried to give up smoking, and my sponsor said to me, why don't you use the same part, what's in what can I do to stop smoking? Which is what? Put yourself on a 5-minute basis. I ain't going to do it for the next 5 minutes. I ain't going to do it for the next 10 minutes. I ain't going to do it until I used to fall asleep, wake up in the morning, I haven't smoked, you know, which increases my faith in the literature, you know. So, you know, I want to ask the group, right, what was your experience of stopping using or breaking a habit? Has anyone used this method, what's in the basic text? Anybody? Okay. What's your name?
Sean.
Sean.
Name's Sean, I'm an addict.
Hi, Sean.
I've done a number of ways through treatment, through CPN, detoxes, but this time round I literally was on a 5-minute basis. I used the international meme, and I just kept jumping on there and sharing, if it was 5 times a day, 6 times a day if I had to. Lost the desire to use it 18 days.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thanks, Sean. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, Dave Fox. Thanks for this workshop. And I remember that whenever I first got clean, I I had one drug that I was so holding on to, you know, and that was the one that was the hardest to give up, was the last one, you know. And I wasn't even sure if I wanted to get clean, but I stopped using, and then the next day I got to a meeting, and I realized that I had a clean day because I stopped using just before midnight. And it just went from there, you know. I realized that I wanted what was on offer, you know, and I hadn't read chapter 5 yet, but it was the fellowship, you know, and hearing other people's experience, you know. And yeah, I think I started to get a bit of faith, you know. I could see it in other people, you know. So yeah, I wasn't thinking ahead, it was just organic, I suppose, you know. It just sort of happened, and I knew that I wanted it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so hope, hearing other people's experience. You know, it's there's hope within the fellowship. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so here it says, our disease involves much more than just using. So recovery must involve much more than simple abstinence. You know, now for me, I read this many times before, but I didn't really understand what it was saying. You know, I didn't understand that I suffer from a disease. The using was only a symptom. That was only a symptom of the disease. I was using as a way to medicate the stuff that was going on inside my mind. I didn't understand that. And after being clean for some time, right, and thinking that, okay, I've got a handle on this thing now. Right? What happened for me was I started to act out in other ways. Obsession and compulsion, what had nothing to do with drugs, and it freaked me out. But here it tells us the disease involved much more than just using drugs. So our recovery must involve much more than just simple abstinence. Has anybody got any experience or want to touch on that? Anybody? Okay. Yeah. Go on.
I'm not used to being picked that way. Yes, I thought I can just stop using and everything will become better and stuff. But I had to keep asking for help, keep asking how did you do it, and engaging, because I was, you know, it's gonna sound like cliche, but you know, people use this term. I was a tourist in the program. I would go there when things were really bad. When things got a little better, I'd be like, yeah, I'm done. And, you know, things got really bad down here.
Yeah.
And I tried to get professional help, but my psychiatrist said, it's just drugs. Get rid of drugs, you'll be fine. And in a way, in spite, you know, I wanted to spite her, like, yes, to prove you wrong, that absolutely more things wrong with me than that. I'm gonna quit drugs and alcohol. And you know, I'm 109 days.
Wow.
But at the same time, I started trauma therapy, I started counseling,
Right.
antidepressants. I'm using all available help because I cannot do it on my own. And treating drugs will not solve the problem.
Yep, I hear you.
So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Jan and I'm
Alright.
So when I first came to NA, I only did like 2 or 3 meetings a week. And then I relapsed and my sponsor told me that I had to do something different. So I started to do 90 meetings in 90 days. And what you said earlier, I couldn't connect always to my sponsor because he had much more sponsees and he had his sleep. And so he like pushed me to call other people. And after that, I started fellowshipping and connecting with other people, like going out for a coffee and asking for experience and for help. And after that, I also started doing step work and discussing the step work with my sponsor and just and trying to give back to the fellowship by helping other people. Like my sponsor is moving now, so I help my sponsor move. You know, and that gives me a lot of like comfort just by doing service and doing something back for people that have done so much for me. That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Param?
Weird sharing going on in my back. My name's Param, I'm an addict.
Param.
Aaron and Paul, thank you so much for facilitating the workshop. Thanks to everyone who shared. I was reading this sentence over and over again, and I was thinking, you know, that simple abstinence. You know, it was nothing simple about it. It was, you know, getting that first day clean. It took me a lot of money, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering to get that first day clean. But it was almost like when it says here, it must involve much more. You know, I was thinking about, okay, well, what did it begin to involve? It began to involve being committed to recovery. That meant listening to suggestions is what it meant.
Yeah.
You know, I still remember the first day I was at that meeting, and he said, "You'll get your head on the pillow clean tonight, and that's a day. That's a day clean. Keep coming back. Not just keep coming back. Come back tomorrow. Like, keep it really simple." I came back, went to a meeting tomorrow. I think by the end of the first week, I had a service commitment. By the end of the second week, I had 3 service commitments. By the end of the first month, I had 4 home groups. You know, I found a sponsor. I was like, I learned to, when I used drugs, it wasn't like I was using once a day. And it was like, I was good at using it. And I wanted to be, I wanted to apply that much more to recovery as well. When I was getting high, I wanted much more. I wanted to be higher and higher. But I still see that simple abstinence. And if you're just coming in and you're trying to get that day clean, it's very, someone I know uses it, provocative. It's very, it pisses me off still when I look at it. That's very true.
Thank you. So for me, simple abstinence for an addict like me is very, very painful. Very, very painful. Because I need something. I use to medicate the condition which I suffered with. So if I do not medicate that condition, and I'm just sitting trying to not use, you know, moment by moment without any type of other actions or solutions or anything, I will go insane. In fact, I'll be more suicidal, more miserable, you know, I'll be more self-obsessed, I'll be more everything. You know, it's better off that I use. I need to do something. Simple abstinence for me didn't work. You know, simple abstinence does not work for an addict like me. Okay, so let's talk about meetings, right? No, before we talk about meetings, there's a line here, you know, and it's about why we used, yeah? And it says here, one of the problems that we found is easier to change our perception of reality than to change reality. We must give up this old concept and face the fact that reality and life goes on whether we choose to accept it or not. You know, I'll read it again. One of the problems is that we found it easier to change our perception of reality than to change reality. We must give up this old concept and face the fact that reality and life goes on whether we choose to accept it or not. I used because I tried to change my concept of reality. I didn't like being in reality. I was allergic to life and doing the normal things that everybody else do. So when I used, it changed in my mind, it changed my reality. It wasn't true reality, it was a false reality. And every time I'd start coming down a bit, I'd be like, oh no, I need more to bring it back to that place again. Does anyone relate to that? Yeah. You know, so I just want to ask, you know, just quickly, anybody else, any experience of why they used or why they think they used?
Because I love the feeling it gives me.
Loves the feeling that it gives him. That's changing your reality. Yes, that's what it is. Anybody else?
Yeah, my name is Mike Manani.
Yeah,
Mike.
I put that, well, there's many reasons why I use it. I did like the feeling, but one of the main reasons why I started using drugs is I find it hard to socialize with people. Very low I got this low self-worth feeling about myself. And when I use, it makes me feel a little better. And I can
Yep.
communicate with people. But the problem is I can't stop using.
Yep.
And I find that now that because when I stop using, the feeling comes back. I haven't grown in that area.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I prefer being like that, uncomfortable around people, fear that, than use to be part of. I'd rather be like this, yeah, and that's where I struggle.
Thank you. So what you're saying is you prefer to stay in reality than change your perception of reality. Okay, thanks. Okay, so let's talk about meetings. Let's talk about meetings now, right? So we've all heard this. A meeting a day for at least the first 90 days of recovery is a good idea. There is a special feeling for addicts when they discover that there are other people who share their difficulties, past and present. Past and present. So the suggestion is, or the good idea is, we do a 90 and 90. Right? Can anyone give me their experience, what they got out of doing that 90 and 90? Stephen?
My name's Stephen, I'm an
Hi,
addict.
Stephen.
I'm going to stand up too. Don't know why. Yeah, when I came to Narcotics Anonymous, I've been using drugs for a long time. And the thing about the 90 and 90 for me is, and I remember so distinctly, having been to a meeting, and I didn't get clean right away. It took me about 5 days to get clean, which is amazing. But then I woke up clean, and I thought, what the fuck do I do now? And thank God I live in London. And I went to a meeting, and I went to a meeting, and I went to a meeting, and I distinctly remember running along, some people will know, Bethnal Green Road to a meeting in Break Lane, and thinking about what I was going to share, and excited about what I was going to hear from other people and whatever. And I realised now, looking back, that I was sharing for my life. And I was listening to other people who were sharing for their life, who were getting clean, staying clean, and finding a new way to live. And I felt that, you know, and one thing I always remember from my first meeting is leaving and feeling hope. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that I felt hope. It was only looking back that I realised that was the feeling I had. So 90 meetings in 90 days was a problem for the first 30 days because I didn't have any cash. I could still get drugs. I could still get, you know, stuff on tick. But I walked to meetings, I got lifts to meetings, and within 30 days things started to change, you know. But 30 meetings in 30 days. And one thing I'll finish with is 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months is something I always think. If you're trying to give something up, if you get past the first 3 days, you're in with a chance. If you get 3 weeks, you're really starting to get there. And if you've got 3 months, you're really there. So that's where we've got 90 days.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. There's a guy at the back.
Yeah, Tim Addis.
Right, Tim.
For your service every London, yeah, it's lovely to be here. I came into recovery about 5 months before COVID, and I call it gift of COVID. So if anyone that's where my recovery really got turbo boosted. You know, I was doing 1 or 2 meetings a week before COVID, and then we all went into lockdown, and I was fucked. I was thinking, what the hell am I going to do? And I discovered Zoom, and the fellowship of NA just opened up for me. It was just the most amazing, beautiful thing. I started doing a 6 o'clock meeting in Bali in the morning. I was doing meetings in America, Arizona. I was doing meetings in Poland. Just doing meetings everywhere. I was doing more than 1 meeting a day. And while all the bubbles out there were watching shit on TV, I was on a meeting getting clean. And I don't think about COVID. I would be here today. I'd probably be dead. So I haven't done a Zoom meeting for a long time, but I know they're always there. And I know a lot of people struggle with it, but for me, I think it brought a whole new group of people into the fellowship. So what I carry with me is I'm never more than a phone away from a meeting. It's always there. I don't need to get on the bus, I don't need to get on the train. All I need to do is pick up my phone and there's a meeting there. So it's massive for me.
Brilliant. Okay, so
Jasmine's had her hand up for a while there.
Hi, it's my 1990, I did it like I very religiously went to 90 meetings and even over that. I think it really set a standard and strong foundation for the rest of my recovery. There's people actually in this room who have done my 1990 believe it or not, I'm actually getting married to one.
Wow. Wow.
And that was 8.5 years ago, and I still go back to those 1990 meetings.
Yeah.
It really crystallized all the, and also what we were saying before about being, I was addicted to changing my reality so much that it was almost like going to meetings and the denial, because then I was not using drugs anymore. But I was still addicted to that, so the denial and the delusion and all the things I was still using to just try to change my reality and make it okay, and all the behaviors that were still there. I think going to 90 meetings in 90 days, and even now, it was helping me like snap out of this delusion, this denial. Hearing other people using the same behaviors as I was, or even people telling me, hey, that's bullshit. Like the whole, so yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, I want to touch on the 90 and 90 thing, right? The literature here says that 90 means in 90 days is a good idea. It's not a must. It's a good idea. I did 90 and 90 because I could do 90 and 90. I was in a treatment town, nothing else going on for me. No reason why I couldn't do 90 meetings in 90 days. However, before Zoom and before, we could access meetings anytime we want, there were places and there were people in different circumstances that couldn't do 90 and 90. They couldn't. Like the mother who had 3 children and never had no support. She can't get to 90 meetings in 90 days. You can't do it. But in What Can I Do, it tells us what recovery is. And it says recovery is an active change of ideas and attitudes. Right? So what I've learned is recovery is a lot to do with my attitude. Right? Now, I don't live in the country, I live in Turkey. In Turkey, we don't have as many meetings as we have in big cities. And I met a guy who's Turkish, and there was a guy that was from Iran. Turkish and a guy from Iran. And what he told me is he couldn't do 90 and 90. So what he would do is he would meet this guy from Iran, and they would get a boat into this neutral island, and they would sit together for 1 hour a week with the basic text. They hardly knew each other's language, but they understood which chapter they were reading from. The waiter used to see these guys every week and think, what are they doing? He don't even understand what he's saying. They're sitting down there with this book every single week and doing the same thing. Right? But they stayed clean. But what it was is their attitude towards recovery. If they could have got to 90 meetings in 90 days, they would have. If they could have. But they couldn't. It was not possible for them to do it. But they had the right attitude towards it. They had the willingness to do it. Like in our step 9, it says that if an amends is not possible, the willingness replaces the amends. It means if you could do it, you would. You know what I mean? So just wanted to touch on that with the 90 and 90. If you're new, I'm not saying don't do 90 and 90, by the way. You can't sit at home watching Netflix saying, well, if I could, I would. No. If you can, do it. Also, in recovery, I've known people that have more clean time than me, that have gone through divorces, they've gone through other stuff that has been detrimental to their recovery. They've also done 90 and 90. In recovery, I need to go and do another 90 and 90. 90 and 90 is not for newcomers. 90 and 90 is for anybody that's in recovery, that may be going through something and they need to reconnect. One of the bases, what I've learned, it talks in this book, this beautiful book, that sometimes when we go and we ask an old timer, we've got an issue, we're surprised by the simplicity of the answer. It doesn't change. The basics never change. Call your sponsor, go to a meeting, read some literature, pray to God, write a gratitude list. It's still the basics, regardless of clean time, regardless of the situation. So yeah, that's my little thing on 1990. So it says here, we find a place in the fellowship, right? We're still kind of on meetings. We find a place in the fellowship and we join a group whose meetings help us in our recovery. We have been untrustworthy for so long that most of our friends and families will doubt our recovery. They think it won't last. We need people who understand our disease and the recovery process. At meetings, we can share with other addicts, ask questions, learn about our disease. We learn new ways to live, which is the title of this convention. And we are no longer limited to our old ideas. So when I first came to London, I went to my local meeting, the closest meeting to me. But I'm not going to diss the meeting, but what I'm going to say is it didn't help me in my recovery. So I needed to, my sponsor told me, it wasn't my idea, go to a meeting that's going to help you, Aaron. And I was still trying to learn from this book of how to live. So I found a basic text meeting, which is in Elephant and Castle, right? And that meeting really held me. And that became my home group. So I joined a meeting that helped me in my recovery. What's your experience with joining a group? Home group, something that held you in your recovery. What's your experience with that?
My name's Max, I'm an addict.
All right, Max.
Yes, so I got clean on the screen, and I found a home group. So I'm sure a few of you will know Brixton Harbour, and that went to online around the time of COVID, and I got on there, and I've kind of been on there a bit, but the environment, it was a really big contrast from like all the other meetings, which were kind of a bit doom and gloom and like all a bit depressing. And then this place was just so like alive, and it had people from all over the world. And it felt like I'd found a place where I felt comfortable, and I wanted to recover there. Thank you.
Nice, thank you. Junior, did you have your hand up?
No.
Okay. Anybody else about home groups?
Yeah, I'm Richard.
Richard?
Every meeting to me that I've been to has got its own kind of vibe, you know, whether it's a face-to-face or an online meeting, and you kind of know, you know, if it's somewhere you want to keep coming back. You know, whether it's the people in there or how they make you feel. And for me personally, mine's the online meeting, marathon one. I've just kept going back every day, and it's just changed, you know, the Zoom thing's just changed my recovery, and I'm really grateful for the platform. So it's each to their own, isn't it? Like you've said, the basic text will get you coming back, you know, the formats, things like that, it keeps me coming back. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you. It's this one.
I'll stand up.
Yes, stand
Makes
up.
sense.
All right.
So my experience of this is I relapsed a lot, and I was in one area, and everyone kept coming in. What happened there? You relapsed, you missed NA, why'd you relapse? And it was breaking me to have to explain that every time to new people. And my friends being like, what happened? So my sponsor said to me, go to a different area. So I went to Ealing, where I got a home group, my very first proper home group, where people got to know me. We did fellowship afterwards. I learned how to take a business meeting. I learned how to be part of a committee, and from that change, it really that catapulted my recovery. And I relapsed once again, but when I went back there, they knew my relapse was coming, but they still loved me. They looked after me. It was different. So I really got to know people when I went to another meeting and were committed to it.
Thank you. Okay, Selma?
My experience of going to literature was meeting, and then I knew most of my friends, you know, were in that meeting in the art and literature a little bit. Me personally, I was like, open that meeting, they talk about literature, they don't talk about the pain I'm going through, I can't identify this and that stuff, you know. And I was in so much pain. I avoided half of my thing in NA. I avoided literature like a plague.
Yeah.
I do service 24/7, not programs, because we must also I had all of that. I was more into the dishes as networking guide than basically text myself, you know, and which was like minimum. That's the minimum, all literature minimum. I would go to meetings quite a lot. But literature meeting was like, oh my god, you know, quite really painful.
Yeah.
Hearing it and hearing the solution was painful, you know. That's what I found. And I did start meeting 24/7. I think 6 months in, it kept going because there was so much pain. I became a member of that group. And I think a year down the line, or 2 years down the line, I suggested we do tradition. Traditions, go through traditions in that meeting. But what realization of that I needed something more than saying things, something more than just go to meetings, something more than just do service, something more than just have a sponsor, something more that heal me. So that literature meeting, basic text literature meeting, I always been to me, wherever I was in free, opened my eyes to more, opened my eyes to God of my understanding. Where it took
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move. Sorry, Lynette, we're going to have to move quickly. So we've looked at meetings, we've looked at getting clean. Now we're going to look at service, right? Service. Okay, this is all in the What Can I Do chapter. It says, we learn that service to others will get us out of ourselves. Our work can begin by simple actions, emptying ashtrays, making coffee, cleaning up, setting up for the meeting, opening the door, chairing a meeting, and passing out literature. Doing these things help us to feel part of the fellowship. Now, when I first got introduced to service from them boring people that were all doing that, right, they really pissed me off because they said that I needed to arrive early and make coffee. Right? Arrive early, make coffee, make tea. They got me involved in public information. I didn't even understand what public information was, but they told me I need to give out these little pamphlets to doctors and different places, and I didn't understand because I'm the one that's just finished using. I'm the one who needs the help. Why are they getting me to do all of this stuff, right? But when I turned up at my home group and everyone was in conversation about what they've been doing that week, I was proud to say I've been doing service of public information. I didn't even know what public information meant. Do you know what I mean? But it made me feel a part of something. I also suffer from, in the same chapter, it talks about self-obsession is the core of my disease. It's the absolute core. And I remember understanding that, to the core of my disease, it's all about Aaron. What do you think about me? What's Aaron going to get? How much? What if Aaron doesn't get? What does Aaron look like? What do they think of me? It's just me. It's the core of my disease.
We love you.
Right? Thank you, Junior. Right? So service, what it does, it gets me away from that core. Right? When I realized the concept of reaching out and helping and doing things for other people actually helps my disease, I started to get relief. Yeah. I even went to a place outside of the rooms that helped homeless people because I didn't know what to do in between the meetings. There was a place called there's a place in Weston-super-Mare where you just go and help the homeless. So in between meetings, I was helping the homeless. Not because I'm a great guy and I really want to help the homeless at that time. It wasn't because of that. It was because I realized that it got me out of the self-obsession. It got me out of that. So we learn to do service in the fellowship, and it mentions certain things. So I just want to throw it out there. What's your experience been like by learning the principle of being of service? What has it been like? Thank you. Over there.
Well, I do service for me.
Yeah.
And that's because it makes me feel, as you said, it's got various advantages for me. And it's not so much, I don't, to be honest, I don't do it because it's a good thing to do. I do it because I want to stay clean. And I'm very ruthless about staying clean, and that's really my motivation for it. And that sounds, sounds a bit selfish, but I don't honestly care. because it's, I've been clean for a long time. It's partly thanks to doing it, and I don't really want to go to meetings, not really. I'd much rather sit and watch TV, and if I have a commitment to the meeting, then I will go.
Yeah.
you know, and I feel like a fucking child with a credit card, to be honest. You know, and I've been clean 29 years. And it's, you know, it's just, yeah, it's really important. And the other thing is, if you do service for yourself, then you don't start getting shitty with people who don't do it. If people don't do it, they don't get the benefits from it. And that's very much their problem. It's not my problem. And I don't have to worry about that or get resentful towards other people who don't do it. If I do it for me, then that's fine. Yeah,
thank you. Anybody else on this side? I think there's someone right at the very back.
Yeah, hi, George Abbott.
Hi, George.
Yeah, my experience, so I've got a team living at the moment, and I also do like co-secretary on another week, and I know when I first came into these rooms, I couldn't open my mouth because I've been isolated for so long. I had no communication skills, and now from making the teams, and you know, even if there's a clash of personalities with someone in that room, it makes me have to accept it, and you know, I've still got to give back. And also, and the co-secretary, it's really good for my confidence and my social skills. And you know, even if I fuck up or I do something wrong, it's still really good for me to grow and learn from it. And just get chucked in the deep end. I'm really loving it. So
thank you.
It's good to give back, and it's good for me. So win-win.
Thank you. I just want to quickly say something before we move on quickly, We ain't got much long to go, probably 10-15 minutes, and then we'll shut it down. But I remember calling my sponsor once. I was on the beach, and I'd been struggling previously. And I was on the beach, and I called him, and he said, "How are you getting along?" And he said, I said, "I'm getting along fantastic. You know, I feel like I'm spiritually centered. I feel like I'm grounded. I feel the power of I feel my higher power. I feel God. You know, I feel. And he said, "Is anyone around you?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, that's probably why." Right? When it's true, I can be as spiritual as you like when there's no one there. When I'm in contact with others is when you see the strength of my program. When I'm challenged with people who've got different opinions, to me, that's when you see the strength of my program. Do you get what I mean? Different personalities. We practice the principles in all of our affairs. But if I'm sitting down there and I ain't got no affairs, I'm just looking at the sea and no one's around me, of course I'm going to be on top of the world. Do you know what I mean? So we learn, we learn so much. Doing service is multi-layered. I don't think there's one thing we can say we do service for. It's multi-layered, while we do service. Okay, so sponsorship. We have found it helpful to have a sponsor and to use this sponsor. Sponsorship is a two-way street. It helps the newcomer and the sponsor. Right? So has anyone got experience with sponsorship and that two-way street? We've got any sponsors in the room? There you go. Anyone?
Again. Me again. Again, it's really important that I sponsor people to remind me of who I am. Because I will forget who I am, because this disease will make me think that I'm some other person that's almost like me but not quite like me. Who can use. That's where I go, and this is an incurable illness. So I really need to do that. And I don't consider it to be really a favour to anybody, but I have to be asked to do it. I don't go around offering to do it because I'm not crazy. But it's a fantastic thing to do. I don't necessarily need each individual, but I need those relationships. I think it helps me to stay in recovery, and I need to stay here because if I leave NA gets along fine, and I'll fucking use sooner or later. That's the truth of it. That's the relationship as I see it. So I need to do that.
Thank you. Anyone else experienced with sponsorship? Gavin? All right, Gavin.
I've got a sponsor that I've got playing. I've been sponsored this since. I think it's about accountability. I need to be accountable to someone. It's a two-way thing. But if I'm accountable to someone, I'll get my ideas I don't care how clean you are, I have to run through any major decision in my life with a sponsor or with another addict. Because I've got a disease that serves me life. And I get bright ideas, especially when I clean up, I have a bright idea every day. And I had a sponsor who said to me, if you get any bright ideas, phone me up. I just phoned him up with a bright idea, and he was an old man Scotsman, and he used to swear at me, call me an idiot, put the phone down. And the next day I said, I'm thinking of doing this, and he say, you are there, I don't swear, but he used to swear at me, put the phone down. And it stopped me from acting out in silly ways. And then one day I said to him, Rob, I'm thinking of doing this. He went, great idea. And he put the phone down. So I don't always get bad ideas, but I need a sponsor to check out when I get when I do get a bad idea. And it's about accountability. I'm honest with my sponsor, and I have to be because I start believing my life. We are each other's eyes and ears, as this is says. And I need other people to tell me that my thinking is wrong. When I say this quickly, when Alan got clean on his first day, you don't remember this. I went up to him and I said to him, our sponsor, and he went, turn it in, mate, and he ran off. and then 9 years later, I wanted to go through the step working guide, and then Aaron ended up being my sponsor. and I think, that's how things turn around. I didn't use, but just the person I asked the sponsor who went away ended up being my sponsor. But without a sponsor, I'm sponsorless, and I believe my own thinking. I act out, I do silly things, and it's a two-way thing. You can challenge your own sponsor.
Yes.
And say, look, what are you doing here?
Yes.
I had a sponsor once who was like 38 something years clean and said to me, if you ever see me do anything stupid, point it out to me, don't let me die on the deep end.
Yes.
And so it's a two-way thing.
Yes, absolutely. So just to touch quickly on the two-way street thing. Me and my sponsor have fallen out numerous of times. My sponsor's main thing, our relationship is based on him taking me through the 12 steps. And we go through the 12 steps together. But we don't always see eye to eye on everything. And it's actually healthy that I get to a point where I've got a voice and I may see things differently to him. That's okay. I still respect him and I still understand the line. He's my sponsor. Do you understand? Junior, just quickly before we move on.
So we only keep what we've got by giving it away.
Yes.
And I think this is fundamental in what sponsorship's really about. Because if I don't have sponsees to keep my experience too, I'm 55, I'll forget. I'll forget your name. You're saying, tell me your name 3 minutes ago, I'll see you down the road and I'll call you sir. Because my mind's fugal. Is it? Something like that. But for me, sponsorship, my sponsees tell me they benefit from our interaction. And, Junior, you're this, stop. It's not me, it's God. Just get that straight. Any change that you make in your life is your actions, not mine. I'm just here. And what they don't know is, especially when we've got sponsees that are still going through the manifestations, they're reminding me of the pain that I experienced when I was in their shoes doing what they're doing. So the identification and the reminder that I get from my sponsees tells me that I'm still doing the right thing. So it's no matter where I go with it, it's either a figure of 8 infinity or it's a circle of information that reminds me that I'm still in the right place and the fortress of Narcotics Anonymous is a safe place. And the most important thing, Gavin touched on it, but it's also my first experience of someone really having their investment in my confidentiality. Because I was talking about stuff that would either give me a life sentence. There was some stuff that I'd never told anybody, and it was really difficult for me to find myself trusting another human being to do that. And in truth, the disease beat me into a place of submission anyway, and then I was like, you know what, you'll do. She'll do, because I wasn't gear and I've got to get rid of it. And my experience is I've never had my confidence breached in Narcotics Anonymous, and I do not breach my sponsee's confidentiality.
Good. All right, thank you, Junior. Yeah, so, sponsorship, two-way street. It's the heartbeat of our program. Sponsorship is highly important. So we're gonna close. But before we close, there's a couple of things that I wanna touch on. Right, is that the basic text. The basic text is written by our fellowship. This is thousands of people's experience, right? the most effective way for this text for me to come alive is when I sit with another person and read it. When we break it down together and we share experience together, my experience is this starts to come alive. This is not a reading book or a story. It's a basic text. So a textbook is something which we study. That's what it is. This book also is not for everybody. It's not. I just want to touch quickly here what it says here around our book, right? In our symbol, it says, the simplicity is the key to our symbol. It imitates the simplicity of our fellowship. All sorts of occult and esoteric connotations can be found in the simple outlines. Now, the word esoteric, looked it up in the dictionary. Was it, Mikey? Okay, esoteric. It is intended for or only likely to be understood by only a small number of people with specialized knowledge or interest. So in short, that means that people like us will really only understand this. Right? Now, I had a friend, you know Terry. You had a friend, Terry C, his name is. Right? And when we was in treatment, he really wanted a girlfriend, yeah? Really wanted a girlfriend. That was his whole mission, to find a girl. So he managed to get this girl. He was really buzzing about this relationship. He said, this is, I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what they say about 1 year you need. I don't care what anyone says, right? I found this girl. It's going to be me and her, right? Really buzzing. He comes back in the meeting the next day and he looks tearful. I said to him, Terry, what's the matter, bruv? He said, I gave her this book to read. She read Who is an Addict, and now she won't talk to me. You know what I mean? Because the book is not made for everybody. It's made for us. That's what it's made for us. You know what I mean? So, I'm going to close. But, the What Can I Do chapter, if you've got a sponsee, or even if you've been around for a while and you just want to rejig your program, has got everything that we need. Meetings, sponsorship, steps, service, giving it away. It's got everything which we need, in order to get this thing which we call recovery. So thanks. I'm going to leave it there.